Hi, today I'm going to be showing you a really easy workflow that I tend to use whenever I try to import my assets into the Unreal Engine. And first of all, I'm going to start by launching the newest version that I have available at the time of this recording of the video. That's 4.18. But technically speaking, this should be working with much more older versions. So while that preps, I would like to show you a little bit about how my project is set up. This is basically a Maya Sim project. In my exports, I usually like to export my the files that I'm going to be using alongside with the execution of the code. Though this time around, I actually have them right here next to my source images, which is going to contain my textures. Under images, some basic renders, and on scenes, I will have basically just the files that I use for exporting stuff. Source images, as I said before, in this case is going to contain basically what I use for a reference and what I use for references from different sites, not just like the front view and side views. So under Freddy, in this case, I'm going to have I'm going to be importing the Freddy Fazbear model, and I have two resolutions here, 512 and 2K resolution textures, where it's going to contain basically my metal and my roughness, but the 512, as I want this thing to be a little bit faster, I'm just going to do the 512 resolutions. Over here, I already prepped my files. This is going to contain basically all that is about the mesh. And on these ones, I have my animations completely split. That's going to speed up my process a little bit here in Unreal. So now that I show you that this thing is ready, I'm just going to create a new project, and this one is going to be a third-person controller. Now I'm going to be rendering this or making this project based on a mobile tablet, and I don't want to include any starter content to make this thing faster when I'm compiled. After you set up what project you or what folder you want to set up your project, in this case, let me delete this version or this copy that I had. I'm just going to use this temp folder, and I'm just going to call these Freddy underscore and today's date, which is going to be November 11th. So actually November 1st, sorry. And then I'm going to create my project. So with that is going to make a larger screen. I'm just going to have to adapt it to these the dimensions of this recording software. So once that thing is done loading, I'm just gonna pause the video a little bit so I can just arrange this on the right size. Alright, so after I arrange my size, what I'm going to do here, what I always like to do is just enable the filters. It's easier for me to just see what folder I am at any given time. And I'm going to go back all the way down to content. What I usually like to have is basically see this sort of arrangement. What I want to create is a new folder, and this folder is going to be the Five Nights at Freddy's kind of folder project. This is where I'm going to be saving pretty much everything from this point onwards. And under here, I'm going to contain or make a new folder that is going to be related to my models. Inside of this, I'm going to be making yet another folder, which is going to be my Freddy, in case I want to add more assets to these later down the road. And over here, this is the time for me to start importing my textures. I have them already prepped in these 512. So I'm just going to select all of these guys, and I'm just going to import them really quickly. So all of them came here. As you can see, all the ones that were prepped as normals came in as normal maps. Unreal was really smart about selecting what is going to be what. So I'm just going to let it be like that. Now the next thing that I want to do is import my asset. I already prepped up the assets and everything is just ready to go. And this time around, this is going to be my next asset. This is going to be my Freddy. Freddy itself is going to contain my skeletal mesh, and I really want to import the mesh as well because I don't have anything to apply this skeleton onto. I already imported my textures. That's also something I really like to do before I start doing anything else. So I'm just going to disable import textures, but I do want to import my materials because I don't want to be creating them by default. And then I'm going to be creating this, and just as that, this is going to start compiling my shaders. Now in the meantime, I just want to arrange my camera so I can view my objects like right at the start point. So this is going to be 90 degrees, and always useful to check what your scene looks like on the first run. Okay, so everything seems perfect, and it seems that the shaders are done compiling. So at this point is a great idea to test your model and just make sure that everything is coming as it should. So Freddy should be just there with no specifics. Okay, I'm also going to try my physics asset. This is going to be applied sort of a ragdoll physics at this point. So everything is connected, nothing is breaking. And with that, I know that my asset is going to be working for me. So I'm going to select this guy, and I'm just going to delete both of them. Now, at this point, I might actually want to start arranging these with proper folders. So I'm going to make one new folder, and this one is going to be my materials folder. And I'm going to select everything that ends with M. So I'm going to take all of these, and I'm just going to move them here. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is do the same for textures, and then all of these goes into my texture folder. Alright, so I have my materials and I have my textures. Now, technically speaking, I like to do m_i instead of starting with or finishing as a suffix instead of a prefix. So let me just fix that really quickly. And that said, that is the naming convention that I used inside of Maya when I was making these models. So I just fix it really quickly. Now the next thing that I want to do is import my first animation. This is going to be my idle animation, and I already have my mesh inside of this folder, so I don't need to re-import this mesh. I'm just gonna leave it there, and everything else is great. I have to use the export time. When I was exporting this, I was saying basically export from frame blah to frame blah, and that is going to be translated to this animation. So I'm just going to hit import all. Should I had any issues, these wouldn't show. But right now you can see that my animation is just coming through the model really neatly. So that is it. It is really not a coincidence that the Freddy character is almost the size of my mannequin, and that is because in the next step, after I'm done importing my animations, I'm just going to be replacing this basic character. So I'm gonna hit import, and now this time around I'm gonna go to my walk cycle. So import the walk cycle. I'm not going to be importing the mesh, and I'm just going to be hitting import all. Then my walk cycle is going to be here, and I'm also going to be importing a run cycle. So these, and I also don't want to import my mesh. Just hit import all, and everything is fine at this point. So Freddy run, Freddy. Oh, actually I didn't notice when I replace this character here. So that's not something that I want to do right now. Just gonna put it right there. Did it again. Just gonna put it there, and I'm gonna check the animations before I do anything else. So I have that, and yeah, everything seems fine. Now what happens if I actually drag it on top of this guy, and if I hit play, he's going to be doing or performing this thing all the time. Okay, that is something I have to fix. Actually, I have to fix these animations. The knees have an issue with that popped in once I added the inverse kinematics, and I didn't have the time to fix the knees, so that's why they look like that. But anyways, I don't want to have these replaced in here, at least not at this point. Okay, my next step, and before I do the jump and everything else that is related to this character, see, this character is doing an interpolation in how fast I'm moving. Can I work with this? So this is, I'm moving it really slow, and then this is going to be moving it really fast again, really slow in this direction and moving it really fast. So I can actually do that with my character. What I need to do is a blend in between these animations. Also, another thing that I have to mention here is that my character is able to jump, and although I have a jump cycle, I cannot use it directly because it's not breaking up into smaller parts. This one, on the other hand, is breaking in beginning jump, falling, and then just landing. So I'm gonna take these guys, I'm gonna kill them from my scene, and I'm gonna go to my content, third person, and blueprints. Over here I'm just going to open this, and that is going to give me this tab. The tab here is just going to be talking about all the basic programming that my character have, which is basically nothing, right? It is just, do I have a VR set? This is going to be doing something with it. Do I have a gamepad? What is it going to be doing whenever I turn around or look up or whatnot? Mouse input, the same deal, jump, and then based on touch, what is going to happen when I do something with it. My movement input, and just basically that, just turn around, keep on walking, and that is it. I don't have anything on my construction script. I'm not really executing anything on this script right now. And this right here is going to be what is making my character. So over here, I'm using this inherited capsule component, which is basically this. This is actually my character. Everything that moves alongside this capsule is what I'm going to be using. This arrow component is basically just going to show me what is forward, but as you can see, that's not something I see in my game. That's not, I don't see it forward or in front of me. My mesh inherited is, on the other hand, this nice Unreal character, and then the camera itself is just going to be having this follow camera, so the camera is always going to be behind of me in this sense. Now if I go to my mesh and I say, well, you know what, I already had a Freddy character, I just want to import it, the character is going to be here and it's going to have all the materials applied and everything. Should I compile and save and execute this, I will have my Freddy, and Freddy is just going to be playing airplane. See, it's just going around, and I can just turn around and pretty much move and do everything that my my blueprint is telling me. But the issue here is that I don't have anything that is animated on this character yet. Even though I replaced it by this animation, I don't have anything that, you know, goes alongside with it. That, on the other hand, is something that I can change really easily here, and the previous one was something like the third person and MVP. And even if I add this and compile it and I hit play, I wouldn't be able to see these animations. So it's great that it doesn't break, but what is happening here is it's trying to find the joints or all the bones that correspond to the particular movement of this character, but based on the third person and MVP. And if I was to open that, I'm gonna go to content, mannequin, animations, and the third person and MVP, then you will notice that if I go to the skeleton, on the skeleton tree, this is the name of the joints that I have, which really don't correspond to the ones that I have on my Freddy character. So Five Nights at Freddy, models Freddy, and then I can open my Freddy skeleton and go to the skeleton tree. They don't really correspond between one or the other. I didn't use those names. So that's something I can do here. I can do an interpolation between one mesh and the other one using the retarget manager. I would basically need to select the humanoid read and select which one goes related to which one. But I'm not gonna do that right now. What I want to have here is basically the animations that I already created. I don't want to reuse the animations that Unreal has for me. That might be a topic for a different video, but for now I want to use these animations that I imported. So the next step for me would be basically create a new blend. This is going to be a blend 1D space, and what a blend is what I had at the beginning, what I showed you when the character was barely moving, he was barely going to start walking, and if I just hit the joystick all the way up, it's going to be doing this run cycle. So what I want to do here is just select my Freddy skeleton, and I'm going to call this Freddy, oops, how to save, I'm gonna do Freddy blend, and this is going to be a blend 1D. This is not a blend 2D, this is, or a general blend. This is only gonna be working in one single dimension. So if I open this, you will see that I have this lovely timeline, and my asset browser already know what animations I have for Freddy. Should I have had imported the other animations, the jump and everything, these should be showing in here, but I don't have them. So I'm just going to be using these, and that's perfect for what I care in here. So I'm gonna take my Freddy idle, and then I'm just gonna drop it in this scene. If I hold shift and move my mouse around, you'll see how this green dot is moving left to right. This one here is my variable, what is going to be driving this horizontal plane. Right now it's set up as known, but what I want to do is name it something that is related to what I'm going to be using. So in this case, I'm going to be using the speed. Now that I have the speed or the name related to here, I know that my value between 0 and 100 is just going to be giving me this. Now a typical value would go between 0 and 250, 255. That is going to be how much I'm pressing the joystick. And then you can actually see how many divisions I have in my grid. This is really not going to affect that much other than my visual perception of how many divisions I have alongside. So over here I'm just going to have these 4 divisions, and then I'm going to have my run cycle. And again, I apologize for the way the knees move in this character. So as you can see right here, Freddy is running, but at the same time he's still doing that idle cycle. He's just moving, looking around left and right, like the same way that he does it in here. It is less pronounced because I'm interpolating between animation in which the joints themselves are not going to be performing that sort of animation. So the closer I am to this value, the more it is going to be on the run cycle. The closer I'm on this value, the closer it's going to be doing this idle cycle. So something like not even right in the middle, but up to this frame, what I would like him to be doing is walking, and this walking looks pretty weird. So I'm using the fact that I already have this walk cycle. I'm just going to drag it and let it go in here. So that is my Freddy character walking around. Over here he's just, you know, looking around the scene. Then the faster I press the joystick, the more it is going to be going towards the I'm running. If you're using a keyboard, it's just really just going to jump from the idle cycle all the way to the running cycle without doing this. But this is perfect whenever you're trying to do something with a joystick or the sensitive touchpad. So I have this right now, but this is not connected in any way, shape or form to this Freddy skeleton. If I was to go to my third person and MVP, actually sorry, my third person character, if I select this and I say, well, you know what, I have that animation, why can't I add it here? Well, they are different things. This is a blend animation and this is a skeleton. Over here in my class, I don't really have a class that is related to Freddy, so I want to make a new one. That is the thing that is going to be driving my animation. So in the meantime, I'm going to go here to my map and I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to go to my animation, and that animation is going to be my animation blueprint. I'm going to be choosing the anim instance as my parent class, that is just the base root, and over here I'm going to say Freddy skeleton, which is the skeleton that I have. So I'm going to hit OK, and this time around I'm going to say this is my animpp underscore Freddy. And then my Freddy character, when I open it up, it is related to this object. Now, this is the pose that is driving my whole animation. In order to have something showing here, what I want to do is basically just create my state machine, determining whether I'm doing a specific action or no. If I was to just drag and drop this idle and just connect it here, after I compile it, that is going to be how my Freddy is going to behave all of the time. Let me save this. This is an MVP. I'm not going to be using my Freddy blend, so I'm just going to close it, nor I'm going to be using my Freddy skeleton. So I'm also not going to be using this mannequin, but I'm going to be taking some code out of this, or blueprint classes out of it. And then over here, my new animation class is going to be this animVP Freddy. As you see, when I compile and save it, if I was to play this thing, everything is going to be driven by this idle animation, and that's still not what I want. So on my Freddy, even though I have that, and even though I can drag and drop my blend shape and then connect it directly in here, this is not being driven by anything. I can make a variable and just connect the value of this, and that is going to be basically going into my final animation pose. So if I say compile this and play it, this is going to be doing my idle. All right. And then if I say, you know what, my value right now is going to be, let's do 50. I'm going to compile it and I'm going to play it. Now he's going to be walking. And if I say the 250, which was the final value, now he's going to be running all the time. What I want to have is a variable that drives this sort of movement. Okay, now this is not really the state machine that I was talking about, but this is basically the principle that I'm using. So this time I'm gonna just drag a pin out, and what I'm gonna say is state machine, and add a new state machine. When I go inside of this state machine, I'm just gonna leave the name as new state machine. I can name that later. What I want to have here is just drag a new entity. And this is going to be a state. So I'm just going to say add state, and this state is going to be my idle slash run. Oh, let me spell that. So run. So the animation that is going to be here is going to be my actual Freddy blend. So it's basically what I had before in my event graph, anim graph. That is my animation, and then my anim graph is basically this. So the reason I'm doing a state machine instead of working directly with the state, let's call this my default machine, is because later down the road what I want to do is expand this into a sort of, I want to be able to make him jump and perform other actions, and I want to be able to drive those actions from here. So my idle run is just going to be exactly this. If I go to this this particular state, again I have the same functionality that I had before. This is going to be passed onto my state machine, which is going to pass it onto my final animation pose, which is basically what I use for driving my animation. So my anim graph is going to be coming to my machine. Great. So here is where I was. Now what I want to have is a variable that drives the speed. In this case I'm just going to make a new variable. This is going to be my speed variable, and the type of this variable is going to be a float. So I'm just change that and compile. That is going to change the type, and now it's here. So I'm gonna take this out, just drag and drop it here, and that is going to give me the option to whether set the value or get the value. I'm going to get the value, and I'm going to connect it directly onto this thing. So now I have something that is going to be driving what is going to be driving the actual animation in my blend shape. So I'm going to save this, and now the important part here is the update that I do on my animation. So I'm going to abuse the fact that this code is really related to the third person anim, and this way I can just basically copy these directly onto my other shelf. So I'm going to move this one around, and I'm going to select these two. Just gonna copy them, and I'm gonna paste them there. I'm gonna explain what is happening in a minute. This is basically just for checking or validating that I have an animation and that I have a pawn that is actually in my scene. And this part over here is for setting the jumping state, and this is for doing the speed. So that's what I'm going to be copying. I'm gonna copy these once again, and I'm going to go to my animation Freddy, and I'm just gonna paste them here. Okay, the first thing that is gonna happen is every single time that I want to update my animation, I need to execute these, try to get pawn owner, making sure that this thing is still on the scene and I can get information out of it. If this is a valid thing, if this is something I can do, I will connect that to set the variable. See, in here now I'm setting the variable that is going to be driving the speed of the actual state. So what is happening here is pretty simple. There's not any crazy math. It is basically get the velocity of the object, get how far this object is doing. This is coming from the actor itself, and then just make the vector length, which is basically just the how long this vector is. It's not only just the direction, but it's basically how fast this character is moving. It's just going to be that, and that is going to be connected here. This is a magnitude, right? So this is the magnitude of the vector, how fast is it moving, and that's what is going to get connected to this speed. So with that, I think I'm ready to just hit compile and save my scene. So I'm gonna hit play, and then my character is going to be doing this, and then it's going to start doing the run cycle. Now I'm gonna try that here so I can have the joystick control, and then slowly start moving my Freddy character. So he's doing this super creepy walk, and then he's going to start running on my scene, and I will have control over what's happening based on where my mouse or my joystick is located. Okay. Now when I go around and start doing this, actually I can just control my camera with this. When I hit jump, see how Freddy is still doing this walk cycle, then running and stuff like that in the air? That's something that doesn't happen usually when you have your character, at least the basic character that Unreal provides. And the reason is I don't have the states for the jumping. Yes, I can jump, and I'm gonna have control over how I'm jumping, because that part of the animation or of that part of that control is given by the third-person character event graph itself. So everything in here is just like, can I jump? If I can, then just jump. If I already pressed it, just stop jumping. There's either start jumping or stop jumping. There's no way around that. But I don't really have the states on making my character just jump or stop or whatnot. So I'm going to leave this video here, and on the next part I'm just going to be making the character do the other part, having the importing my jump and breaking it up into smaller parts. I won't have enough time to fix the knees before the next video, so I'm sorry about that. Actually, I'm just going to import them right now, and I will take a look at my jump. This is the only animation that I care about right now. I have this loop, but let's take this. No longer, again, I don't want to import this mesh, and this is just going to be my import all. And let's make sure that when I run around, this thing is jumping. Okay, awesome. So my Freddy is there. I'm also going to import my scare and just make sure that the animation is there. Later, if I want to use it, or I want to make a custom action. So right now I have Freddy, and all the animation seems to be working pretty okay. Alright, so that is going to be the end of this video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you like it, then just go to the next part, in which I'm going to be explaining how to do the jump cycle.